Sri M. Sri Bharath. Sri Bharath, please.
Thank you, sir. This is my first speech in the Parliament. I've heard many learned members speak today, and I'm not as prepared for countering many of the things that were said, but I think as we speak in the future, I'll learn from it. But I think the takeaway is that politics are different, times change, and when we point fingers at someone, there's 4 fingers pointing back at us. And I think I'll speak about those as we proceed into the future. I'd like to start off by thanking the Honorable Prime Minister and the Finance Minister for their visionary budget, which exemplifies the government's unwavering commitment to Viksit Bharat and the goal of making India a $30 trillion economy by 2047, and also making it the 3rd largest economy by 2027. There were things that were said by members of the opposition. I'd like to highlight some of them, that the government today is not a stable government. I'd like to remind everyone that when UPA 2 came into power in 2009, the UPA didn't get the magic numbers. They were under 273, and they had to take external support of other parties to form the government. Compared to the times then and parties over here that were part of that alliance, we are much stronger now than they were then. I'd like to also highlight that what we're doing now is the alliance is based on pre-election agreement between the political parties, and we've all come together based on the needs of our respective states. And I'll come back to why Andhra Pradesh needs help and what the challenges we've faced over the last 5 years. But I'd like to highlight certain aspects of the budget, I think, which will help us become Viksit Bharat by 2047. I'd like to start off with the focus on infrastructure, on capital expenditure. The 11.11 crores that have been committed to capital expenditure is about 12% greater than what there was committed last year. And I'd also like to appreciate the 1.5 lakh crores that have been given interest-free for multiple states across the country to leverage to build their own infrastructure. I'd like to also acknowledge the budget given for rural Bharat through the allocation of 2.66 lakh crores. I'd like to, in particular, appreciate the government for recognizing the challenges of the MSME sector by basically providing end-to-end support, from the new credit assessment for giving about 100 crores of loan without collateral, from giving support to stressed MSMEs during their times of difficulty, to giving them access to funds. I think the MSMEs are the backbone of the country, because across rural and urban areas, there's millions of MSMEs across the country that need that help. But through this development, we are not leaving people behind, because there are allegations of price rise and inflation. I'd like to remind here that the average inflation in the NDA government over the last 10 years has been about 5% as per the World Economic Outlook. But during the UPA regime of 4 to 14, the inflation was 7.5%. So there's a 2.5% average lower number of inflation in the last 10 years compared to the UPA regime from 4 to 14. So whatever complaints that the opposition has about price rise, I think they're pointing a lot more fingers at themselves. I think the commitment of the government to give budget support to 1 crore families for building housing, both in urban and rural areas, is much appreciated, and we look forward to getting that benefit in Andhra Pradesh also. I think the continued welfare support through the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana to 80 crore people, and continuing that for 5 more years, we appreciate that. And I'd like to specifically mention the water management that the city of Visakhapatnam that I represent is covered in that. Having toured the entire Parliament during the campaign, and also having contested in 2019, this is an acute shortage and acute challenge that we face in our city with sewage and solid waste treatment issues. I'd like to also highlight the solar plan of providing about 1 crore houses with solar rooftops and about 300 units of electricity free. So I think through this, the government is providing development and providing support to not only the wealthy, but also to the poor and to people all around the country. And I hope that as the country keeps moving forward, we support many others. We've given a basic standard of living through these various initiatives. We've focused on infrastructure, we've focused on economic growth. But then the question is about equity. How are we giving opportunity to different people around the country? There are different things that the budget has spoken about. One, which was very interesting, was about being able to provide internship opportunities to 1 crore youth across the country, to start with in the 500 top companies, but I hope that it gets spread to other companies. And the budget outlay in terms of giving a one-time joining of 6,000 rupees and a monthly benefit of about 5,000 rupees. I'd like to appreciate the intention to set up 1,000 ITIs in the hub and spoke model across the country and to train 20 lakh youth in skilling. I think it's a much needed initiative. Being a person who is in higher education myself, I'd like to in particular appreciate the intention to give loan support of about 10 lakh rupees to every student who wants to pursue higher education in domestic institutions, and also giving 3% subvention on interest. Because I did my undergrad in the US, I lead a university in India today with about 30,000 students. I've seen over the last 2 decades that increasingly the number of assets that one holds is going down, and most people have to take debt to educate their children. And today, I don't want India to go into a place where the United States is right now, which is rising debt trap in the student community. And I think if you see the major expenditure that any household incurs is on education and on healthcare. So this important scheme coming in the higher education is much appreciated. And I also would like to briefly mention some initiatives in the Atmanirbhar Bharath intentionality, which is about making ourselves self-sufficient on the semiconductors and the entire technology sector because of the challenges we've seen in the pandemic and in general in the global uncertainty. I think all of the production-linked incentives we've given in the technology, IT, automobiles, are all very necessary to also provide opportunities for Indian citizens for pursuing manufacturing in India. As we do all this, I think there's two potentially disruptive forces that we have to watch out for. And I'm happy to see that certain initiatives in those areas have been announced. The first disruptive force that could really change the way we live is climate change, sustainability. Because while we may be ignorant to the incremental damage to the environment, we're all seeing the way cyclones and hurricanes and storms and earthquakes are happening around the world. So investments into that areas like bringing clean energy, doubling the budget from 10,000 crores to close to 20,000 crores on new and renewable energy, almost increasing the nuclear power investments by 400% from about 500 to 2,000 crores, and increasing the solar grid capacity. And looking at the overall renewable energy capacity, in 2014 we were 76 gigawatts. Now we have come to close to 200 gigawatts. So the government is delivering on its stated intention, and I think it will keep doing so over the next 5 years. I'd like to also specifically mention, while it's a small investment into the space, the VC fund that has been set up for 1,000 crores, I think is very important because as we exhaust our natural resources and as we look at beyond the Earth, I think investing into space startups and potentially living on other planets down the line will not be an impossibility, and it will be a possibility, and I'm glad that India is joining that. So having seen this, I'd like to also highlight the second potentially disruptive and also potentially very dangerous thing if we don't manage it well is artificial intelligence. The Government of India approved the India AI mission in March 2024 with a budget outlay of about 10,000 crores over the next 5 years. I'd like to request that we put specific focus and research on the impact on the labor markets through the advancement of AI, the regulations we need to put in place to ensure that AI doesn't overtake the way our labor market functions.